Hello and welcome back. The previous video gave us an overview of RPA testing. In this video, our focus will be on the components of the test suite. Let's begin. UiPath Test Suite consists of three different products: Test Manager, Studio, and Orchestrator. Let's go over them one by one. The Test Manager is used to plan and monitor testing for automations, applications, and environments. With full requirement traceability and visual logging capabilities, testers, developers, and analysts can detect defects. Using the dashboard, automation leaders can monitor the quality of their automation. In addition to being intuitive to use, it connects to SAP Solution Manager, ServiceNow, Jira, Azure DevOps, and many more integration tools. Moving on to our next component, UiPath Studio. Automation developers use Studio to automate their processes. Now, they can also create test cases to test these automations. We can test automation processes, web applications, SAP, Citrix, or mobile applications with Studio's low-code interface and pre-built activities. Aside from this, Studio supports data-driven testing and has purpose-built features such as activity coverage tracking and mock testing to support RPA testing. Now let's move on to the third and last component, UiPath Orchestrator. To cater to testing needs, Orchestrator has a dedicated testing tab that will help us monitor our automations continuously. It's also possible to publish test cases directly from Studio to Orchestrator, and then create and schedule test sets for continuous testing and monitoring. Besides that, it also acts as a central repository for our testing data. There's a separate tab called Test Data Queues, where we can store our test data and consume it with our test cases. Great! Now let's take a look at the architecture of Test Suite. We'll start with the UiPath Studio. The UiPath Studio comes with reliable and robust automation capabilities. We can create test cases here for RPA workflows, web, mobile, and Citrix applications. Studio is connected to Orchestrator, which allows us to publish our test case. Once published in Orchestrator, we can then create and schedule our test sets, which would then be executed by the UiPath test robots in machines that we've configured. Whether it's Studio or Orchestrator, all of these components are connected to the Test Manager Hub. A Test Manager Hub is the back end of a Test Manager web application, used to track requirements, plan tests, and perform tests. Furthermore, Test Manager integrates with Task Capture, which will help us document all of our requirements or non-technical resources that are used in testing. To manage requirements, agile planning, defect management, and other approaches, testing requires specialized application lifecycle management tools. We do have connectors for various ALM tools, as mentioned earlier. It's also possible to develop connectors for third-party applications using an SDK. We also support mobile and API testing in Studio with the help of Appium and Postman integrations. In addition, CI/CD integration with several different tools is also provided to keep everything running smoothly. CI/CD integration is supported by two native plugins, Azure DevOps and Jenkins. Okay, this is all about the architecture. Next, let's see these in action. Let's start with the UiPath Test Manager. Here, we can trace our requirements, upload our test cases, and monitor them. We can create all types of projects. Each project has multiple tabs where we can add our requirements, test cases, test sets, and view the results of our execution. Furthermore, we can view the dashboard to analyze how testing is going. Next, we'll talk about the testing features of Studio. The tool may be familiar to RPA developers. There are also some built-in testing capabilities in Studio, and in the Dependencies section, we can find the Testing Activity Pack. Now let's take a look at the different testing activities in the Activities panel. Here, we can test our verifications, deal with the orchestrator's test data queues, and generate random testing data. On the right-hand side, we'll also find a dedicated testing panel called Test Explorer. We'll address this topic in a future video. It's time to talk about how test cases are designed. The process is very similar to how we design our workflow. This is a XAML file which is linked to a workflow file. We'll look at it in depth in our next video. Finally, we'll take a look at the Testing tab in Orchestrator. It has multiple sub-tabs. It's possible for us to create our own test sets composed of various test cases. Let's check the Test Cases tab. We can find all of the different test cases published from the studio here. Next, to create a test set, we can combine different test cases. We can also run a test set by clicking on the Execute button, or we can schedule it by using the Test Schedule tab. In the Test Execution section, we're able to check the results of our tests. We can also view all of the tests that we've run so far in this section. Orchestrators also provide a central repository called Test Data Queues that allows us to upload our test data. These are similar to RPA queues, but they hold testing data. We can upload our test data using the activities from Studio. Once uploaded, we can either consume the queue items in our test cases or link them to our data-driven test cases. We'll talk more about data-driven testing using test data queues in our upcoming videos. And with this, we conclude our demo on the components of Test Suite. As a recap, we learned about the different products offered by Test Suite, the architecture of Test Suite and their interconnections, the different testing activities available in the studio. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy automation!